Start with you. What's your read on this ICAHN and Einhorn cutting back on their Apple holdings?
That's sort of reflective of the tough quarter that Apple had over the past quarter. A lot of investors have been selling the shares, and the stock price has been reflective of that. There's a few different catalysts for Apple stock in terms of it's going to get it back going again. There's either a strong earnings performance or a new product category. And we just went through an earnings season where they are showing signs of their growth slowing down. And so now people are waiting to see what the new product groupings are going to be.
So tell us what we are expecting this year in terms of rollout. We've heard about a potential March event. There's the typical fall event where we're expecting the iPhone 7.
Yeah, this year seems like it's going to be an update to the existing product categories. So last year there's a lot of attention given to the new releases of Apple Music, Apple Watch, obviously, Apple TV. This year you're going to see updates to these sorts of things, new iPhones, new iPads, updates to the products that were introduced last year.
Adam, do you think we're going to see aggressive updating of the watch and maybe a new version of that this year?
We haven't seen that yet, but there's expectations that it'll be happening later in the year. Probably a newer form factor. It's been compared to how it is with the iPhone and how the original one was a little bit thicker and heavier, and over time it's slimmed down, and expectation is that that will happen with the watch as well.
Now I want to talk about this bond sale, and then we're going to bring in Tim on this incredible story he wrote about iPhone recycling. But first, Apple has so much cash already. Why sell these bonds?
Well, it gives them more cash in the United States is one thing. They have a lot of their cash is overseas. This allows them to do their buybacks quite aggressively, and also there's hints that they can do some more acquisitions with it as well if they want to do it. But you know, for a company in Apple's financial position, the markets are pretty favorable. They can get this sort of cash at next to nothing, and so why not take advantage of it?
Well, they've in fact been lending from some of the money they hold outside the U.S., I believe. So they have so much money, they don't hold on to it. They actually lend it to others. They're so rich, right?
Yeah, and
they're like a bank.
Yeah, one thing that they're doing that's unique in this bond offering is they're doing so-called green bonds, which have to be used specifically. They're loans made in which they have to be used for certain renewable energy projects and things. It's sort of an emerging field of finance that someone like Apple being a part of could give it a boost.
Now, Tim, you've got a great story out today. Apple now has dedicated facilities to destroy not only iPhones, but laptops and iPads. Tell us about these facilities. There's one in particular in Hong Kong that you go very in-depth on and what they mean.
Yeah, well, look, of course, Apple isn't the only one who's in the recycling program. HP, Amazon, Lenovo, all sorts of companies are trying to recycle old, used electronics goods. But Apple is far more strict, far more rigorous than any other company, according to my reporting. Having spoken to various people in this reverse supply chain, they are very, very calculated about the process they go through. They're quite secretive about it in terms of the methods that they go through. But essentially, their goal is to reduce the amount of landfill that is being produced by electronics products. And so when a shipment of, say, old iPhones comes into this factory in Hong Kong, the first thing they do is they actually weigh it. Every individual item is barcoded, they weigh it, and as they go through the process of pulling it apart, grinding it down, and putting it into its component pieces, such as the aluminium, the glass, and so forth, they actually weigh it at every step along the process. You know, this is the contractors, and they then send this data back to Apple to ensure that it is being done correctly. And Apple audits the process very rigorously throughout the whole process, almost as much secret and rigorousness as they put in actually building a phone. They do very similar for destroying a phone.
I have a question. You know, I can imagine another reason why Apple might do this. It's David Kirkpatrick here. You know, we've seen pictures in the past of children, you know, disassembling electronics goods on a big pile, you know, with all these toxic materials around them. And Apple's gotten so much grief for some of the issues regarding their workers in China and elsewhere. Do you suppose that it could be one of the motivations here, that they don't want to even take any risk that they might be seen to be endangering the lives of people that are disassembling them?
Yeah, no, that's very true. It's a very good point. And in fact, I spoke to Lisa Jackson, who is the head of their environmental division. She used to be the head of the US EPA. And she actually admitted that, yes, people expect a higher standard from Apple than they do expect from others. And they say they've got a high standard for themselves. And so they're very rigorous to avoid any chemicals getting, leached into landfills. Those things that can't be actually recycled have to be put into controlled facilities for long-term storage. And the other reason why they're very rigorous is they don't want to see any of the parts of an iPhone get back out into a secondary market. You can imagine there's a very strong market for any of the components inside a device to be resold into repair or reverse engineered or so forth, and they want to make sure they're very controlled in that as well.
Lisa Jackson, Adam, Apple's head of environmental affairs, has become more prominent at the company. How much of this is simply because of her?
She was brought in several years ago, and she's taken on a higher profile. Tim Cook has been elevating the profile. A lot of other senior executives on the team, and given her history in the Environmental Protection Agency, it makes a lot of sense that she would be taking the leadership here. But this is stuff that Apple has been doing for some time, and they've been increasing it over time. But like Tim said, this is something that a lot of companies are trying to do. And based on what Tim's reporting, it sounds like Apple, as usual, is very secretive about how they do it.